Alright, so I know my last video about Touhou flopped, at least compared to other videos, but hey, this one is for sure going to be a banger because it is something, oh my god, it is about something extremely obscure, and you guys seem to like obscure things, obscure games, obscure soundtracks. So today we'll be talking about Cookie, a Cookie Star I should call it actually, a subculture of Touhou that is extremely enigmatic, confusing, and has a lot of history. If you're a Touhou fan like me, you might have heard of it. You've probably seen this little rat, and if you're a fat Touhou nerd like me, you know quite a bit about it actually, quite a decent amount. Now, this video is I'm sorry if it comes across as cluttered. There's just so much knowledge, so much information, so much history to unpack about this subculture that I can't really like put it all coherently without sounding a little crazy and a little scatterbrained. So yeah, and even doing this intro is a little hard because I can't really talk about it without having to go into the deep roots. So yeah, I just hope you guys enjoy this one because it's going to be insane and there's a lot of information. It was a lot of fun to research. So yeah. Alright, so to understand Cookie, you kind of need to know a few, I guess, prerequisites of Japanese, I guess, video culture. You'll first need to know what a voice drama is. Voice dramas are kind of like visual novels. Basically, if you're an organizer, you recruit a bunch of voice actors and they all play out a character and are, they stick with that character for a while, and sometimes it's based off their name, and just don't really worry about it. It's just they're play characters, right? And there are usually visuals attached. Each voice actor has a unique name and always plays some kind of character most of the time. Sometimes it switches, there are rare cases, but I wouldn't really worry about it. So yeah. Anyways, this tends to stay primarily on Nico Nico, and you don't really see it too much on YouTube with the exceptions of re-uploads. Now, there's also something I need to introduce, known as Emu. It's pretty weird. It's more important for things later on, honestly, but I'll explain it now just to give you some context because it does still have a lot of importance in the early parts of Cookie and the middle parts of it a little bit, so yeah. Anyways, in 2004, the baseball player Kazuhiro Tadano got caught in a scandal that was really big at the time. He was basically in a gay pornographic tape known as Manatsu no Yo no Imu. And it became the name of the subculture. Their whole thing is making voice dramas and overall memes of people who starred in generally like any gay pornographic film. It's kind of like Dreamy Bull and how we memed him a bunch, but this was way earlier, back in the early internet days in general. Now, where does Cookie, the original Cookie I should say, factor into all of this? Well, put simply, there's a guy named Hazuna Ryo who took over and organized a Touhou voice drama known as Marisa and Alice's, oh my gosh, Cookie's Kiss. And that's also where the name Cookie came from. Put simply, this was a Yuri story about Marisa wanting to give Alice a present, which were cookies, chocolate cookies, and things like that. This voice drama was of terrible quality overall. You had bad voice acting, bad art, constant art style switches, and it sucked so much that people started memeing it like crazy. Touhou people and just people on Nico Nico at the time in general, and voice drama fans. Everyone was memeing it. And this would basically be the birth of everything Cookie, because, it's the original Cookie. I should point out there are two notable characters in this that would go on later on, which were UDK and Ryu. I should explain this as well. A lot of people in these voice dramas had their names abbreviated just for simplicity's sake, so you'll notice I tend to call them by their abbreviation. I forgot who UDK was. Let me search it up. It was a Udzuki Kosei, so UDK, you can kind of see where it comes from. Now, why did this obscure voice drama even receive so much attention? I mean, this is for a already kind of small-ish culture at the time. This is 2005, pretty early Touhou stuff. Well, like a modern game publisher, they basically undelivered heavily. They advertised it as like, oh, this is gonna be so awesome, guys. It's gonna be awesome. They called it Marisa and Alice's Cookie Kiss. It's gonna be so hype, guys. And it was, well, not good at all. And so obviously people were very angry with this. A lot of controversy happened around this time with regards to it, and it's quite a lot to summarize. So to put it really, really quickly, the video basically got adopted into Emu subculture for whatever reason. I guess they just kind of claimed it. And so you'll notice a lot of Emu references in Cookie. And UDK got her info leaked a bunch, and Emu people started harassing her in her live streams. Hazuna Ryo, who was in his 30s, a 30-year-old guy, he was basically accused of sexually harassing a lot of the voice actors for this project and this thing, and that's kind of the whole reason some people speculate he chose Touhou for that reason, because it was like the perfect way to like meet a lot of underage girls, and so it was kind of weird, and just a lot of chaos, and it caused a lot of chaos, especially in the Tohu community. You know, this is probably one of the biggest, I guess, controversies in the Tohu community, so yeah. And of course, obviously, with how much backlash there was, it was never continued and died out. It never had a second part to it. Okay, so if it ended, how does this story even continue? Well, it's actually pretty interesting. You see, this would, I already mentioned this, but they memed it a bunch, but it would actually spawn a bunch of other voice dramas of people who wanted to continue it kind of for meme reasons and also because they kind of liked the concept. So it was a little bit of both. It was mostly something called MADs and otoMADs, you know, mad, whatever. Those are way, this is a really early time to introduce this, but just know that these kind of exist around this time, but you don't need to know what they are at all. Anyways, there was actually a notable serious continuation of the series started by someone named Taisa, who I'll just call TIS, their actual abbreviation of their name. They would start a new series that would be deeply inspired by the original Cookie, and this would be called Cookie Star Star, or Cookie Double Star, whatever you want to call it, in reference to how the original was called Cookie Star, or at least it kind of got its name dubbed as that. Anyways, I'll talk about the first episode. It was another Yuri Tohu voice drama, just like the original Cookie, you know? There's some stuff about, like, you know, presents. Yeah, it was just the same. However, it is important like this. You know, it did pretty well, I guess. It was like okay. People were like, yeah, this is at least better. But there was some stuff about how one of the voice actors, Mars, who I'll just call MZ, sounded like UDK, one of the original voice actors for the Marisa that played way back in the original Cookie. But they soon cleared it up and got some pretty good feedback and ended up continuing for 2 more episodes / seasons. I don't really know. They just called it like S1, S2. So yeah. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find too much information about Cookie Double Star 2 and 3, but I did find some more information about TIS and other voice actors around that time that were working on Cookie Double Star. You see, there were a lot of rumors that TIS was actually in cahoots with Hazuna Rio, you know, the original guy who started the first Cookie, as they were both voice drama planners, and in general, like, why would they continue this in such a serious manner? It was a bit of a, you know, people were speculating, and in general, you know, TIS was in this, like, voice drama planning group, and people speculated that maybe TIS was, like, a puppet for Hazuna and stuff, and, you know, overall, it was just a complete mess. Some people even suspected, like, TIS was in love and was actually, like, dating Hazuna, which would be kind of weird, because I think they were actually pretty young at the time. But this would be very wrong. You see, TIS was actually in a lesbian relationship with MZ. Remember, Mars, the Marisa of the Cookie Double Star series. The two often streamed on Nico Nico and did a lot of things together, sung duets and all that. And so people soon enough dug and found out about the relationship. When probed about it on a live stream, TIS just said, "Oh, I'm straight," and MZ was just like, I'm not gonna really explain. Apparently, they'd also had, you know, some kind of sexual interaction at one point, and I have no idea why this was a huge deal, but it was dubbed the Manchurian Incident. It had a lot of traction, I guess. I have no clue why it was so big, but, and I don't even know why it's called the Manchurian Incident. I tried finding, like, what is Manchurian? It's like a dish, or like a country? I don't know. So, yeah, anyway, soon after, about, you know, Cookie Double Star 2, when they released the second one, they broke up, and TIS would later on get married, and, you know, funny enough, it was actually a former Cookie Star fan that would end up being her husband, and nobody actually knows where MZ went. Like, they just completely disappeared. But yeah, anyways, that's the entire Cookie Double Star era, and in general there were a lot of other voice dramas around this time, but they weren't really, I couldn't find a lot of information about them. This is very old. This is like early 2010s, so it's very hard to find a lot of information about this. But, you know, soon enough there would be the rise of a new era, and probably one of the most notable and one of the most important, the second most important, I guess I should say, in the Cookie subculture. A new wave is coming, the era of the Kuso Star series. If you don't know what Kuso means, it's basically the equivalent of saying damn it, shit, fuck, whatever. Like, you know, kind of like an expletive to describe some kind of frustration. You're like, damn it, no! That kind of, you know what I'm saying, right? So, knowing that, you can already tell that this series is going to be quite interesting and pretty aware of its beginnings. No, I'm just kidding. The first episode of this new series is absolutely vile. It is a parody of a Japanese gay scat porn film, and I regret even watching like a minute of it. It's pretty weird. Yeah, 1,000-yard stare right now. It sounds gross, obviously, and there were gross visuals. I regret seeing those things. Thank God they were censored on the YouTube English version. But it did surprisingly well because of the normalization of a lot of scat things, because of the emu community actually normalizing it and bringing up new people, like new characters to bring into their emu culture. So yeah, it was apparently praised and stuff, which is wild, because if you look at it, you know what? No, I'm not even gonna put a video of it on screen here, because it is like Oh yeah, no, I'm not traumatizing you guys. I know that, you know, times change, you know, we definitely have moved away from that kind of stuff, and we're not Japanese, so apparently we're not used to it like my friend is. So yeah, but it ended up doing well enough that it actually get more sequels. However, an interesting factor of its production that you should keep in mind is that all of the voice drama voice actors who were recruited and they made sure of this, they didn't know much about Tohu and were only told a little bit about what Cookie was, and there was only one person that kind of knew what it was and would go on to kind of do other things. And the person who arranged this was Atuda Ako, who made sure of this, as I just mentioned. So yeah. Alright, so as I mentioned, they made, you know, some sequels to this, and Kuso 2 isn't much different, and I'm not really going to talk about it. It's just more stuff about poop, but, you know, all that sort of stuff. It's gross. However, interestingly, this is where some characters who will end up getting popular later on, way later on, by the way, would kind of, you know, come from. SNNM is one and Akira is the other, and you'll see them like kind of more later on in other media, so yeah, just kind of keep them in mind. These are characters who would get popular later and show up. And finally, Kuso 3, also known as Choco Heart, would, you know, release, and this is the birthplace of a lot of extremely popular characters, and one of the most infamous, I would say, with the exception of the original Cookie videos ever. This would be extremely important to the development of Cookie as a whole. There would be popular characters such as SC, SZ, ICG, RRM, and, you know, the most notable one, NYN, the Nazvan character who would basically embody the whole subculture soon enough and become something of a mascot almost, and become the focus of a lot of later Cookie videos. So yeah, and in addition, Kuso 3 was more like a parody of the original Cookie, rather being like, you know, gay scat porn stuff, which is nice, you know, and it was kind of, you know, it gained a lot of traction for that. It was like an inversion of the original Cookie, and this would basically be like, again, the catalyst for a lot of the future Cookie stuff. I mean, people are already starting to make new content using these characters, so yeah, but those, again, more important for later, so really just keep this in mind. Again, this video was huge and even broke 1 billion views on Nico Nico in April 10th, 2023, which is insanity. I mean, for reference, Nico Nico doesn't actually get that many views compared to YouTube. You know, you don't have, because Nico Nico tends to focus more on a lot of the underground, tends to focus a lot more on Japanese content and more Japanese focused things. You have a lot more inside references to that kind of content, etc. You know, friggin' ear licking ASMR, you know, that's very popular there. It's probably, and it's really erotic there, and it's like really popular. Okay, point is, it's very heavily focused on Japanese centric. It's like very heavily focused on mostly like their special, I guess, like unique styles of content. And so to break 1 billion views is insane. I mean, for reference, a lot of Vocaloid songs on Nico Nico haven't even broken 1 billion views. Okay, anyways, let's move on. Kuso 4 comes out, and it was supposed to be the final one, but the creator would make a few more. Kuso 5 and 6 would eventually come out. Kuso 6 would come out in like 2020, and then eventually it would cease continuation. However, despite that, Cookie would still go on. It's time to talk about MADs and otoMADs. Okay, so obviously during the Kuso era, there was some stuff I didn't really talk about, and there were some things I couldn't really find information on. Apparently there was like this guy who's named Shiriri, and he made a bunch of Cookie content, and he got all his information leaked and stuff because there was a community that hated this one guy, and it turned out he was the one guy they hated. So yeah, there was also this, during 2018, there was this time where a bunch of Cookie, you know, voice actors and content creators had their not information stolen, that was another person, but they had a lot of false DMCA strikes, and it was called the Great Freezing of Cookie, and, you know, there's a bunch of stuff, but, you know, now Cookie, after all of this, has pretty much become MADs. Now, what are MADs? They basically take pre-existing lines from other Cookies, live streams, voice actors. Like, for example, UDK did a lot of live streaming. They took some of her, like, actual lines of what she said, and they would take, you know, different characters, elements from all different Cookie, like, universes, I guess, and kind of make their own. They would make their own, you know, Cookie video. They would make their own story, things like that. However, they tend to focus on things like NYN, you know, characters like NYN and ICG, from what I know. Of course, they have other characters show up, you know, obviously from, you know, they have some show up from the Cookie Double Star series, you know, the original Cookie series, Kuso, etc. So they kind of all come together. It's kind of like Smash Bros. Almost. And they come together, and they also like to, forgot to mention, they also include a lot of other underground subculture, like a lot of underground memes, like Emu, obviously. So yeah, Cookie MADs in general have been around since the birth of Cookie, the original Cookie, but, you know, they really only blew up at around Kuso 3, and, you know, all that. Now, these MADs sometimes are like absurdly high quality, like it's outrageous. Now, otoMADs are basically, again, taking, you know, elements like lines and characters from Cookie, or not even just Cookie, like any Japanese media, and turning it into a song. And it's usually a parody of an existing song, and it like follows the same melody and stuff like that, and they add a lot of their underground Japanese memes, again, Inmu, usually. And for example, you know, with Cookie otoMADs, they'll take a lot of quotes, you know, lines, elements, and turn them into a song. And, you know, okay, here's a good example. This one uses a lot of UDK quotes and samples, and someone had to actually, a lot of these elements aren't original. A lot of them, like the animation isn't original. Here, just take a look. Okay, so I'm not really actually sure if this one's a real MAD, because it might just be the animation alone, but the animation is usually like almost as good as like this is like the best animation I've ever seen for a otoMAD. But you know, just in case, I don't think the actual vocals are of a MAD, so I don't think they're an actual, I don't think it's an actual otoMAD. I think it's actually someone singing. So just in case, I guess, if you didn't get the idea, here's a different one. So I'll show that one. It's also absurdly high quality. A lot of these freaking otoMADs are this high quality. Again, and they tend to be extremely, like, visually very impressive. Like the one I just showed you, keep in mind, again, animation isn't original. Someone did that and had to use Cookie characters for reference and then make them do the dance that was probably in the original song. So yeah, it's mostly MADs and otoMADs nowadays. I can't really find any other prominent voice dramas, and that's mostly because they've died out. You know, I think it was something that was more of a era. It was like an era of voice dramas, and now you can't really find them. If you look on Nico Nico, there probably are still some people trying to make them, but they're not really that popular. So yeah. Now I would like to say that there was a lot I didn't talk about. A lot of characters I missed and other insane things. You know, freaking drama with a lot of other voice actors, a lot of characters that were parodies of characters, things like that. This community is over a decade old, and there's just so much to it that I couldn't fit it all into one video coherently. Regardless, I still really hope you guys enjoy this one. This one was a lot of fun to research, well, sort of, except with the exception of Kuso. You know, that was, oh my god, that was awful. I'm not gonna make you guys watch that ever. I'm not even gonna link it. And you know, huge thank you to the Cookie Wiki. A lot of this, it's very hard to find a lot of this information, especially because I'm not Japanese, so I can't look at forums and stuff like that. So having a place where I can look at all this information in one place and get like a nice, be able to look at everything that I already know and then learn a little bit more is really nice. So yeah, anyways, that is the end. And yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time.